Mayang buntag, mayang hapon, mayang gabi, no matter where you are in the world. Thank you all for joining me today on our live stream. Yeah, you're gonna have to give me a second. I'm double checking, make sure everything's going through correctly. I've had so many different issues with these over the time that I still try to double check everything. And for some reason today, internet seems to be kind of slow, so I'm not sure what's going on. I'm still getting a spinning wheel on my Facebook to check this. So, Cindy, if you're listening, can you let me know if you can hear me yet? Hey, I can hear me. Not the way I'd like it, but I can hear me. Double check everything. And for some reason today, that I prefer to log into one of the other channels that we have and catch it from that, because there was at least one time on our channel. There we go. When I watched it from our channel, I was actually hearing, yet not actually broadcasting any kind of sound. Okay. I am hearing it, so we're all good. Good morning, Miss Mary Ellen. How are you doing today? I don't think we've got any other viewers from Maine. That's very cool. Welcome to our live stream today. Cindy used to join in on a lot of these, but she's in her last few weeks of pregnancy. So, yeah, she's right now laying down, got her feet propped up and trying to get some of the swelling down in her feet that came in the first few hours of being awake. Yeah, it should be about 9 p.m. in Maine right now. That we're 12 hours ahead of you. Yeah, trying to keep up with all the different time zones is sometimes a bit of a challenge. It can make for some interesting confusion. But Cindy is 30 some weeks pregnant. I'm not sure, 36, 38, something like that. The last appointment at the doctor said it could happen. Labor could start at pretty much any given time. But end of the month would be ideal. That would be unquestionably a 37 weeks. Yeah, it's the end of the month, beginning of November is the expected due date. Hot here. Well, that kind of depends. In comparison to Arizona temperatures, no, it's not very hot at all. In comparison to temperatures in Maine, yeah, it's probably hot. But Carolyn actually loves the weather here, other than the humidity. She likes that insanely dry desert air in Arizona. I've never been a fan of that dry of temperatures. That when it starts getting that insanely hot, dry, humid, it don't matter. It's just horribly uncomfortable. Yeah, there's an app for that, Weather Channel, weather.com. According to them, it's 84 right now, but we're Also 9 in the morning, so it's warming up. And unless you've been in the insane heat that Arizona has, a lot of people say that. And the humidity it can horribly magnify the feel of temperature, either make hot feel even oppressive and cold feel bitter. Uh, but here, when it's 85, 90 degrees, you get on a motorcycle and you go get a good breeze going. It's beautiful. Uh, Most of the Philippines is within a couple miles of the ocean. And so you've always got decent breezes going. And, even 85, 90 in the breeze, it's still comfortable. Uh, and normal temperatures here are mid to high, mid 80s to mid 90s. That they very rarely go over mid 90s. So with the ocean breezes or the mountain breezes, it's actually not too bad. Uh, and a lot of the places that are not close to the water are up in the mountains. Most of the islands here start and immediately go up. And so by the time you get away from the ocean breezes, you're in the cooler mountain air. So yeah, it's not bad here overall. You really need to think about coming out to the Philippines. I either visit Carolyn one time she's out here, or when we come back, definitely come visit us sometime. Uh, Another Filipino friend of mine he's a scuba diver, and years ago I was looking at coming before I even knew Cindy. I was looking at going on a diving trip, and that's actually how Cindy and I met, is because of that. But wow, that is hot for October. Uh, in Maine, October, snow is more common than those kind of temperatures. But he made the comment that the flight here will cost you more than a 2-week stay. And there's a little bit of exaggeration to that, but not much. You can find very nice $40 to $60 a night hotels that are waterfront hotels. $80, $90 a night hotels. You're talking about very nice hotels. You're talking about 3 and 4 star hotels by anybody's standards. That you see, I never minded the snow. I enjoyed the winters growing up in New York State. The time of year that I hated the most or disliked the most was the spring. That mid late spring when everything was melting off, when it really wasn't snow and it wasn't quite water yet. There was just that icky, muddy slush. Other than that, I enjoyed the weather back there. I just couldn't live on the economy back there. Uh, that Cindy and I had the opportunity to go back last March, 2 years ago March, 2 years ago March, and we went in late March, and it actually snowed the day we were leaving. Hey, Marlene and Paul, how you guys doing today? We're talking about weather and how hot it is in the Philippines. Are you guys still having 100+ degree days or not? Yeah, I'm pulling up another app. I've got my hey, Mr. David Brown, how you doing today? Now you guys are coming up. We're discussing weather and temperatures and seasons. Now you guys are coming up on summer. Mary Ellen, David Brown is from New Zealand. Oops. Oh, you got New York is still or yeah, New York, Phoenix is still having 90s. Yeah, they're still having kind of warm, but not quite. But Mary Ellen's actually from Maine, in northern Maine, so they're just heading into the yeah they're just heading into their winter. So December December 21st is actually your longest day of the year. So your days are getting longer. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know your brother was there for that long. I didn't know your brother was in Australia at all. That yeah, in Maine during they're coming up on their winter and their shortest days, and yeah, by December, it gets dark at 5 o'clock. Uh, they're kind of like what you just came out of. that I think they're a little bit further north than you are south, though, but I'm not sure. I looked all that up one time. Oh, okay. That travel here is starting to open a little bit more, and my sister Carolyn just pointed out that Merrick has came out with an effective treatment for COVID, not a vaccine, but an actual treatment for COVID patients that is reduced hospital stays, fatality, the whole freaking 9 yards, all across the board by quite a lot. And so hopefully that'll start getting more widespread use in these vaccine mandates, and life can start going back to normal again. And um, yeah, that you guys, I'm not sure the exact latitude, but you guys are way far north. Uh, yeah, you're north of most of Canada. And even in New York State, where I grew up, uh, by December, 5 o'clock, it was pitch black. Uh, it got dark way early, and the summers it would be twilight until 8, 9 o'clock at night. Now, David, I got a question for you. That kind of makes for an interesting question. That in the U.S. and a lot of school systems elsewhere that I know of, they have summer break during June, July, that time frame. Do you guys have a school year that follows your seasons, or do you have a school year that follows the calendar, having the June, July school breaks, and just kind of have a winter break for school instead of a summer break? That it was always my understanding that the original breaks in the U.S. came more in fall, to help for the students to stay home and help with bringing in harvest and doing canning and all that fun stuff. And that they just kind of morphed into a summer break because of family vacations and all that. And so I'm kind of curious how that would work down in New Zealand. But here they have their break. They used to have their break more towards the summers here in the Philippines, having it in April, May, and then go back to school at the end of May, beginning of June. But there again, they don't have real seasons here because of the weather and everything else. That you can, crops harvest year round, so that there really is no harvest season. A few of the crops do have a season that they're in, but they're not like crops that I think of that have a you plant in the spring and you harvest in the fall. I don't believe I've ever met your brother. That pineapples have a season, and I never, and I still haven't been able to run across a growing pineapple. A few people have told me that there's some small plantations and stuff over in Moab area. Papa talked about a couple of different areas. Oh, okay. So schools like there do have kind of a summer break, but they just do it for Christmas. Okay. A lot of schools in the U.S. have went to a more year-round format where they'll do that. They'll have 4 or 5 weeks off, and then a couple of other longer breaks during the year. Oh, no worries, no worries. That well, I would ask where you're going, but the one I probably wouldn't know, and two, if you just made comment you're driving, that probably wouldn't be a good question at the moment. So Maryland, he was kind of like my family and I, that he was quite a bit older than you were, so he was up and gone by the time you were growing up. Really, that because my sister Janice was or is 7 years older than I am, so she was gone by the time I was like 8, and the other ones are 13, 15, and 18 years older than I am. Carolyn's 18 years older than I am. Her and I have never lived in the same house uh, as brother sister. That when I was born, she was finishing out her senior year back in the town that my parents used to live at. That my parents moved when my mom was pregnant for me because of a promotion from my father. Uh, and then she immediately went to nursing school and just never moved back. There was a short time uh, that she lived at the house, but not for very long. And then she went to California. That and not only youngest, but youngest by a long shot too, to the point where it was almost two separate families. And in our family, that the oldest three are fairly close in age, and then my sister was kind of a tag along for them. And then by the time I was born, that it was really my sister, my youngest sister, and I, because these three had moved out. So, and then she moved out early when she was like 17. And so for most of the time, most of my life, I was basically an only child with four siblings. It made for some interesting times growing up. That unfortunately, unfortunately, that my son uh, and Little Pumpkin are going to grow up like that. They're going to be two completely different uh, families. So, fortunately, my son's really cool about wanting to be part of his little sister's life. So, hopefully, that uh, yeah, as soon as that actually starts happening, we're going to start posting a lot more. I've been practicing a little bit more with the DSLR. If you haven't subscribed to it or keep an eye out for it, I try to post them whenever I do post more or a new photo album or whatever. We've got a Flickr site that I post a lot of the photos I take with the DSLR. Uh, Lately, I've been spending a whole lot of time trying to get a lot of this stuff edited. Uh, for the people that are here, definitely keep an eye out tonight for tonight's Chica Chica. Last week's promised a little bit of an update in a few days. Unfortunately, there was a change that happened that we'll talk about in tonight's Chica Chica, and that's primarily what tonight's Chica Chica is going to be about. Not terribly long, but kind of an interesting update on what's going on. Flickr is a photo sharing site. It is predominantly for photography for photos, but they do have a little bit of video storage. And I need to start looking on how much storage they have because I'm running out of space between all the videos and photos that I'm taking. Yeah, Jeff, that unfortunately, uh, YouTube is not terribly great about notifications. So whatever time it is you're there, where you're at about this time, Monday through Friday, our time, again, depending on where you are, I do live streams, and that's where you'll get a lot of information on what's going on and whether or not you need to look out for a video being posted that night. So it's Sunday through Thursday, your time. About 6 in the evening, I do live streams. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday would be a walking live stream. Monday, Wednesday would be the office live stream like we're doing right now. Yeah, I had to do some conversions. I think that's correct, but that was mental, so don't trust them. I'll be honest with that one. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 10 Cebu time, I do a walking live stream. And then Tuesday, Thursday, 9 to 10, I do an office live stream. Train derailed there for a second. Yeah, I kind of feel like Animal off of Muppet movie. Periodically just skip a groove and need to get going again. And that when there are kind of whenever I post videos, I'll try to announce it on this so you'll know to look out for a video in about 12 hours. But yeah, I need to get a clip of that scene of Animal when he skipped the groove and they had to thump him to get him back going again. I always found that was kind of funny. That and the movie Up, the dog and the squirrel. That's me. No worries on that one, guy. That I can appreciate that. That not everybody's a technophile, but uh, well, when I do post it in Flickr, I post a link on our Facebook page. So if you're on our Facebook page, uh, you'll get notification. And I'll also post them on Cindy and my wall so that you'll get notification. And it should be just a straight link to where you can view the pictures. That just for that reason, and not everybody's into all that stuff. It's like the blog post that I'm starting to do on on Monday nights, our time, Sunday morning, I think your time. I try to do a blog post, and I'm starting to do those a little bit more. And I'm trying to do those weekly at this point. We've had the blog for a while and just haven't made use of it. And so I'm trying to get in the habit of making use of a lot of the different we have both personal YouTube pages and a a, uh, we have both personal accounts, and then a face. Bills to Phoenix has a Facebook page. If you go to our About page on YouTube, yeah, I'm trying to do something. I hope it's not screwing up the video. I don't think it does. There we go. Good grief. No, that didn't work at all. I tried to get the link to post the link, and that came up as something horribly weird. Give me just a second. I'll have to see if I can get it a different way. That, yeah, I've got way too many way too different many silliness going on, and some of it is just flat out silliness. No, I can't get there at all. That's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. I think that link will take you there. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Mary Ellen. That if you're kind of curious what Cebu looks like, definitely try to join us on these. And like I say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, our time. I think it's Sunday, Tuesday, Thursdays, your time. About this time, we do a walking live stream of just different areas in Cebu. Yeah, Jeff, I can definitely appreciate that. Fortunately, there's an app for that. There we go. There's an app for that. Because of having so many different passwords and everything else, and the sites change their password renewals and cycles and all that fun stuff. That I had to come up with something to help. And I found a really cool password manager on the App Store. So I store all my passwords on my phone, and which is a further nail in a coffin. If I ever lose my phone, I lose my entire life. I haven't found one that will work between the computer and the phone. So I need to figure out a way to back that up to the cloud or something somewhere, to where if I ever do lose my phone, I could access it again, because I wouldn't know 80% of my passwords. I try to make, I'm not like a lot of these people that have 22 character long alphanumeric passwords, that I try to keep them simple enough to where I can remember them, so that I kind of have a narrow pool to draw from. And periodically I'll find out that I don't have a password stored in there. And if I can't get it on my first guess or two, I have to reset it and come back and store it in there. That the most recent one is our PLDT password I didn't have in there, and I had to do that for that one. Occasionally you got another password to change the password. And sadly, if somebody wants in badly enough, they're not, those kind of passwords aren't much more unhackable than a standard simple remember one is either. Our IT department at the city of Phoenix suggested randomly picking a 4-letter and a 5-letter word that makes sense to you, or you can make sense so you can remember them, and then just capitalize the first letter in each, and that will generally satisfy most password requirements. And that for a long time I've done that, but a lot of them are requiring numbers now. A pastor friend of mine will just randomly choose Bible verses that he's memorized, and that way it gives you both letters and numbers, and generally it's a big enough combination that you can get enough with it. But yeah, that I definitely that Beeline Highway is a really amazing highway to drive. I love riding that. I took Mom and Pop on a lot of that when they were there, that they were impressed with the desert scenery, and then getting into Payson. I had to stop and think. We actually came back down from Winslow, down the Mogollon and through Payson that way, and they were really fascinated to see the change from the tall pines up in the northern Arizona, coming back down through the desert. I want to say we stopped at Yeah, we did. We stopped at Natural Bridge, and they were amazed by that. They were really impressed with that. Definitely looking forward to get back to Arizona and continuing exploring some of that. And Cindy and I have talked about trying to do a little bit more traveling this time within the U.S. There was so much that we didn't get to see that we'd really like to. that for a lot of reasons we chose not to travel in the U.S. and spend a large amount of time every year here in the Philippines, and that was a lot of fun. Um, After we go back, we may re-envision that. Uh, I do need to be back in January, February every year to keep my 13A active. Uh, Going to talk with that JR Visa Consultancy uh, before we leave and see if there is any way that I could do an annual check-in remotely. I don't think there is, but it would be worth checking into. I'd hate to have to re-get it before we move back again permanent. Uh, and again, it wouldn't be that bad to come out here for a couple weeks, to come out here for 3, 4 weeks every year, in addition to another trip somewhere in the U.S. Uh, and Cindy kind of enjoyed working online when she was working here, and that she wouldn't mind trying to do a little bit more online job in the U.S. And so if that happens, we may be a lot more free to travel uh, and just work remotely online anywhere she's at in the U.S. Uh, it would be ideal if we could find a job, if she could get a position that would allow her to work primarily remotely from here in the Philippines. But we'll have to see what kind of developments happen with that one. But it is looking good for everything to go back. I'm hoping everything gets back to normal or some semblance thereof before we go back, and that everything goes smoothly. Right now, the biggest stumbling block on time frame on going back, the pumpkin will need both a U.S. passport and a Philippines passport to go back. And this has happened with several people. Philippine Experience dealt with this. That if you have just a U.S. passport leaving the Philippines, the child's going to be guilty of overstaying from the time they were born until the time they were leaving, because they're not a Philippine resident. So unless you go down unless they're not go down and do all the immigration thing for them every 3 months and all that good stuff, they'll have been guilty of overstaying. And if you don't have a U.S. passport when you arrive, even though Cindy and I are both U.S. citizens, they won't let the child inside the U.S. because they're not a U.S. citizen and don't have a proper entry visa. And so the simplest solution is just getting both passports before you leave. And so that's just going to be a matter of timing. The consulate did say that they would start processing with a certain hospital's birth record in lieu of the Philippine Statistics Agency's birth certificate, the official government birth certificate. But before it was finalized, that they did need an actual copy of the for real birth certificate. So hopefully we can get those up both going quickly. And that's one of the questions we're going to ask tomorrow, is what exactly is needed for a to expedite getting a birth certificate and getting all those records in place so that we can get a birth certificate fairly quickly. That I saw a message come up and I'm distracted. Squirrel. I'm sorry, people. Yeah, that I've heard horror stories, but I've also heard of people getting birth certificate in a month or two. So that would be the ideal situation because it takes about 3 months to get your passports to get both different passports. So if that could happen, we could have passport in hand as early as February, March. Realistically, we're expecting March, April. That Australia is on Australia. New Zealand is actually on our bucket list to get out to go check out one day. And like again, when we were living here, we were kind of expecting to be able to travel a lot better. Uh, and again, with Pumpkin, that we would love to be able to take her different places as she gets a little bit older to different countries to help her see what's going on. And that again with adding the extra person and traveling and all that stuff is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. Yeah, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal when things start getting back to normal. But it's going to be just exactly that when things get back, start getting back to normal. Uh, Before we do much international traveling for a few different reasons, we'd probably like Jana to be 7, 8 years old so that she'll have some memory of it. Will we do some international traveling before then? Yeah, probably. Well, definitely between the U.S. and Philippines, but as far as checking out other places, uh, probably wait until she's a little bit older before we do that. Mama, Papa have already said that that if we wanted to go someplace to visit Australia or something like that, that they would definitely be willing to take care of Pumpkin for however long we needed to. Morning, Mr. Daniel. How you doing today? That Hey, late is never a problem here. That we have no problem going back around to different discussions I've had. Uh, we actually started out with somebody that's living, well, not really close to you, but at least the same latitude as you do. That they live in northern Maine. That they live a little bit north of most of Canada. Uh, well, most of populated Canada. Let me put it that way. But and we got talking about that they're having 80-degree prediction for 80-degree weather tomorrow morning, tomorrow during the day, which I found that one kind of surprising. And in northern Maine like that, you'd expect snow quicker than you would those kind of temperatures. But uh, I'm going to hit up another topic that's a little sensitive, but yeah, that's what I said. She wasn't close to you, but kind of at the same similar latitude to you guys. You're just on different coasts of the country, basically. That uh, she's from north central Maine, so she's not really on a coast, kind of like you're not on a coast, but she's more from the Atlantic side of the U.S., North America, and you're more on the Pacific side of North America. But I think you're both a couple hundred miles from the coast. Uh, but like I say, the latitude should be real close to the same. Uh, where was I going? That I really need to get a copy of that Animal Skipping a Groove. But we got into a brief discussion of weather, and then got into a discussion with David about the seasons being so different between the north and southern hemispheres. Because he's from quite a bit south in the southern hemisphere, but because that was one thing we talked about, and something you're going to be dealing with. That David's coming up on their summer, so their days are getting longer, and you guys in Canada and her over in Maine are coming up on your winter, so the days are getting shorter, and that it's kind of interesting on that respect. And here I'm about 800 miles from the I guess about 800 miles from the equator, that it's friggin' 12 hours a day year round. But even growing up in New York State, which is quite a bit south of where you're from, during the winter, around Christmas time, around when winter actually started, 4:30, 5 o'clock at night, it was dark. And then during the summer, June, July, it'd be dusk until 8, 9 o'clock at night. That Mama and Papa had never experienced that. And in Arizona, there's quite a bit of hey, be nice. I'm only 56. I got a few years to go. As poorly as my father took care of himself, he made it to 80. We're hoping. Although his last few years weren't terribly great. I'm hoping to do a little bit better than that. But and believe it or not, doing those walks every day help a lot. Up until he was in his 70s, late 70s and early 70s, my father would do at least a mile walk a day. And I think that helped a lot on keeping him healthier and more active than it did. And it was right about the time he stopped doing the walks that his health went downhill. And my sister and I, he lived very close to where my sister lives in Arizona, so she kept a little bit more regular eye on him than I did, and plus being a nurse, that she understood what was going on with him a lot better than I did. And we never really did definitively decide which was the cause and which was the effect. Whether because his health was going downhill, he stopped being more active, or because he stopped being more active, his health started going downhill. But it was unquestionable that when one happened, the other happened. And so I'm kind of taking that lesson to heart and staying as active as I can, as long as I can. My mom's mother and my dad's mother both made it into their 90s. And my grandmother Chapin, I remember a lot better. And she was active pretty much up until the day she died. And she had some serious health problems. She had a murmur in her heart that she had ever since she was a kid. And several cardiologists told her that she didn't have very long to live because of it in her later life. And she outlived a couple of the cardiologists. So, the activity level that people keep, I think keeps them alive a lot longer. And Jojo, these things need to go by the wayside, because my sister seems to say I have COPD. I like to say I have the early signs of it. But I've had a couple doctors say you've got COPD. So uh, back in my youth, it used to be called emphysema. But yeah, I need to yeah, I do. I need to quit. Especially if I do want to be around for pumpkin for any length of time. Uh, if I want to make, if I want to make 80, that would put pumpkin as 25. Now, if I want to make it to 80, I need to do a lot more things. That Yeah, some families have uh, very good longevity. The women in our family have outstanding longevity. The men, not so much. But there's quite a few of them that have made it into their 80s. So, uh, my dad's father, my grandfather Roe, he made it into his late 60s and died of a massive heart attack. But he worked. Uh, he worked right up until about a month before the heart attack, and that happened back in the early 60s. Problem is, I've looked this way since I was about 16. Uh, I'm one of these people that just never aged well at all, but I never continued to age that badly either. So, the last few years, I'm starting to see a little bit more of it. Uh, I'll be honest with you on that one. That uh, I kind of like to say I've lived a life well lived. My ex, I used to have a full beard every once in a while. I much prefer a full beard, but we'll be the first to admit mine doesn't come in terribly well, and I've got a huge gray patch on the chin. Most of the chin is a huge gray patch, and she hated it. That there's a friend from church back in Phoenix. I would have sworn that he was in his mid 40s, maybe late 40s, early 50s. And I found out he's in his 70s. I know other people that are in their 30s yet look like in their 80s. So yeah, some families do that. They age outstandingly well. Some people don't. My father looked like he was in his 70s from the time I can remember in his 40s. So yeah, that although my brother Jim, that took a lot after him, people mistook him for his 50s and he was in his 70s. So uh, genes have a lot to do with it. But hopefully I can make it. In coming here, I think my health has improved a lot. I am a lot better able to walk than I ever was in the US. But there again, the weather and everything is way more conducive to getting out and doing things. I'm getting back scuba diving. That I went the other week. I got some more footage. Uh, I need to get it edited, but both the other guy that was with me, the dive master that was with me, and I took footage. And so I got a crap load of footage to go back and review and edit into something. Uh, that I got about 2 hours worth of underwater footage to edit into something. And I tried getting a video going out, but I didn't get a story of it. So I need to figure out something on how to edit that into a video. Yes, I was checking out the time. Uh, yeah, my finger doesn't really work out terribly well. But I see that we're actually coming up on our hour, and Cindy asked me to do a couple of errands for her this morning, and so Papa and I are going to head out to Enzo's Meat Market, and then run over to the little public market here, in Benawa, and I'm probably going to try and do a little bit of a video on that. Just because I need to get. I've got 4 or 5 videos edited and ready to post for our Thursday night videos. Everything else has been delayed due to COVID, so I wouldn't surprise me that I was kind of surprised to find out that New Zealand does the daylight savings, but a lot of the world does that too. So I don't know. Now, my older sister and older brother are still alive and kicking, doing well. The oldest sister is 18 older than I am, and she's alive and doing well. This brother just recently passed away. That he had lung problems, and it's ironic because of the 5, he's the only one that, to the best of my knowledge, never smoked. May have in Vietnam, but he was exposed in one of the areas that was Agent Orange, and there was some other things, and he was another railroad worker. So there were other issues that it may have been. He's doing well in health, and my sister, my youngest sister, and I are doing reasonably well in health. So hopefully, my sister looks like she's definitely going to make it into her 80s. My mother had real bad liver problems, and so the family's all been checked for liver problems. The issue she had may have been genetic, and so at that time we were all checked, and we were all screened for it, and there was no indications of any of the siblings having any liver problems. So. But she died in her 60s. My father, that he died at 80. So I don't know. His father, like I say, died in his late 60s. And beyond that, I have no idea how long they lived. My grandfather on my mother's side, I want to say made it into his 80s, but I don't know that. Yeah, that I know back in the U.S., at least in upstate New York, there was a lot of dairy farming, and that was a common joke among the dairy farmers that somebody needs to clue in the cows on daylight savings time. They, they still seem to want to be milked at the same time, regardless of what the clock says. But I do notice it's coming up on my 1 hour time frame. That I appreciate the dedication and the love you guys show all this channel. Jojo, I gotta reply to that one before I do cut off. And this is a debate that I will have with people. it's not that people didn't live to extreme lengths in the past. That there were quite a few 100-plus-year-old people back in the day and such. But more people are living that long now because of medical advancements. But you saw quite a few people that made the century mark even back then. And 75th wedding anniversaries and stuff like that are something that's actually falling by the wayside for a lot of other reasons. But that is super impressive. Uh, my mom passed away just before my parents' 50th. My oldest sister, her and her husband celebrated their 50th last year during the height of the lockdown. So it wound up being just a very private ceremony, a very private thing that they did. And they were good with that. That they both were very happy that it kind of wound up being that way. But that is awesome, and I hope you had a huge celebration for your grandparents, JoJo. But I want to say I really do appreciate the dedication and the following and support you guys do give this channel, and definitely look out for the Chica Chica coming out tonight. It's not going to be a huge major announcement, but it is going to be kind of an important announcement on not even a new direction, but kind of officializing a direction that the channel has been through basically since its inception. And it'll be kind of cool in this, and I believe it will help a lot after we manage to get everything settled. But for now, from Toad Chip Compound, wishing everyone mabuhay. JoJo, I try to post them at 9 o'clock our time. Keep an eye out for the announcement on our Facebook page.